Good evening, everyone. I just want to say happy LGBT History Month. Thank you for watching and joining me tonight with Silicon Valley Pride Fireside Chat. I'm your moderator today. My name is Saldy. I'm from Silicon Valley Pride. Tonight, we are delighted to get to know Okan Sengun, the co-founder and executive director of the LGBT Asylum Project. Um, the LGBT Asylum Project is the only San Francisco nonprofit organization exclusively dedicated to providing accessible legal representation for the LGBT asylum seekers who are fleeing persecution due to their sexual orientation, gender identity, and/or HIV status. Um, More about Okan. Okan Sengun is the executive director and co-founder of the LGBT Asylum Project, the leading San Francisco-based nonprofit organization exclusively dedicated to providing legal representation for the LGBTQ plus immigrants who are fleeing persecution and seeking asylum in the United States. Okan is also the founding attorney of the Okan Immigration Law Group, a private law group that handles marriage-based green card and naturalization application, as well as asylum cases based on political opinion, race, nationality, and religion. Without further ado, I'll bring on the stage Okan. Hello, Okan.
Hi, Saldy. Well, thank you so much for having me tonight. It's wonderful to be connected with Silicon Valley Pride team and members and everyone.
Thank you. I guess we'll go ahead and start the fireside chat.
Absolutely.
So my first question for you is, asylum is a word that we hear a lot in the news these days. Can you explain what it is generally and how it differs from immigration?
Yes, so there are a lot of different types of immigration applications, and many of them are based on employment ties or family ties. But asylum is a humanitarian form of protection. So it's a special form of protection provided by the US government for people who have suffered persecution or people who fear that they will suffer persecution in the future due to their race, religion, nationality, political opinion, membership in a particular social group, which includes LGBTQI asylum seekers. So the asylum applicant will need to show that they suffered harm, such as mistreatment, physical violence, sexual assaults in their home countries. And the reason of these mistreatments should be because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. And they will also need to show that they are afraid of returning back to their home countries because as an LGBTQI person, they will be harmed for being who they are or who they love. So overall, this is what asylum is. Now, asylum, and there's another word that we hear a lot, which is the refugee process. So now, asylum and refugee processes are often mixed up. So in order to apply for asylum, you have to be physically in the United States, versus the refugee process is handled totally separately than the US government, handled by the United States, UNHCR, in a third transit country. And asylum is a process with a deadline. So all asylum applications must be submitted within the first year of the last arrival of the applicant to the United States. Now, this rule makes many asylum cases, especially the LGBTQI claims, very, very complicated, because a lot of times the process of coming out even could take a long time. And people just don't know the fact that they could apply for asylum because of their LGBTQI status. And asylum applications and overcoming asylum applications could be very complex. So there are ways to do this to overcome the one-year deadline issue, but it definitely requires professional legal help to do so. Overall, this is the generally what asylum is.
Thank you for that explanation, Okan. Um, my next question is LGBT people can face a really dire situation in other parts of the world. Can you speak to what the LGBT community can face in some of the countries where when we see folks claiming asylum?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for asking me that question. And this is why we do this work. And this is why the work of the LGBT Asylum Project is so important. Unfortunately, there are around 75 countries where it is illegal to be LGBTQI. And 13 of those countries, it is punishable by death sentence. For example, Saudi Arabia. And even, for example, in Iran, Iranian government forces gender reassignment surgery. So a relationship between two men wouldn't be a same-sex illegal relationship. We've seen, unfortunately, lately, an influx of cases from, for example, Brazil, because of the extreme homophobic Bolsonaro administration. He even publicly said that he would rather have a dead son than a gay son. Imagine, people are now extremely afraid of living in Brazil, and they come to the United States and apply for asylum. So as an example, like Brazil, for example, it does not have to be a crime for the applicant to apply for asylum. Places like Turkey, for example, it has never been illegal to be gay or lesbian or transgender. However, it has also never been safe to live as an openly LGBTQI person in Turkey. Hope that gives you a little bit of like idea of what's happening in the world for LGBTQI people.
It's good to know that like like in other parts of the world, being LGBT is still illegal. We are fortunate enough here, we live here in United States where we have we have many rights as being an LGBT.
No, absolutely, and that's why even though we're right now, our current government is constantly attacking us, and it's unprecedented. Still, the United States is a beacon of hope for a lot of LGBTQI people all around the world. We receive probably thousands of messages and emails in 1 year from so many people in the world, just asking how to escape their home countries, how to be safe. So we constantly respond to them and explaining, this is the asylum process. You have to be physically in the United States for us to be able to help you. And some of them, they manage to come here and then find us and come to our Castro office, and we help them. So that's why I think it's still important to know that the United States is significantly important in the LGBTQ community in the rest of the world.
So, Okan, can people be eligible for asylum if instead of government-directed persecution, they are facing the threat of violence from their local community?
Yes, that's a very good question, and absolutely. So the harm could come from the government itself, such as when it is illegal to be LGBT or where there is jail time because of their sexuality or gender identity, or the harm could come from civilians and their governments, unfortunately, are unable or unwilling to protect the victims. Many times, the families and communities of our clients are the attackers, and they cannot get any help from their police. And we use these stories, unfortunately, to show that these people have suffered persecution because of their sexuality or gender identities in their home countries, and that's why they should be eligible for asylum to stay in the United States.
So my next question is, Okan, you clearly work with clients that have gone through some of very traumatic experiences. What is it like as an attorney to work with people that have been through this trauma?
Yes, so it can be very heartbreaking to hear these stories. Anybody can imagine that. And we try to make sure that our clients can open up to us, because we often talk about very sensitive and personal stories. So I usually comfort my clients by letting them know that I'm a gay man and my first case was my own case. So when I come out to them, they usually feel so much more comfortable with me. Well, there are a lot of tears during the meetings between our legal team and our clients, but it also feels so rewarding. And that's probably why we all do this work, to know that we are helping to change someone's life for the better. And you know what? It's when it's a decision day and our clients get their asylum approvals, and then they usually come to our office and they would give all of us hugs. And that is so priceless. And that is why we love what we do. And we are so passionate about our work. And I really miss pre-COVID days, even just because of this.
Thank
Just
you.
able to be in the office with our volunteers and clients, and I do really, really miss those days. So hopefully it will come soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully by next year, we could hug everybody, our
Absolutely.
and stuff like that. So what is it involved in going through the asylum process as an LGBT person? What types of things do you have to prove in order to be eligible for asylum?
Well, so it is very stressful as an LGBTQI immigrant to go through this process because you are mainly alone in this. So the main difference between an LGBT and non-LGBT asylum seekers is that the non-LGBT asylum seekers usually do have the emotional and financial support of their families and their communities. On the other hand, LGBT asylum seekers most often do not have this support at all. In fact, their families or communities are the ones who want to harm our clients. So other than this, what we do in an asylum application, I'll give you an brief overall view. So first, there are immigration forms involved and a lot of copying. Also, we work with our clients to write down their life stories, which we call their declarations. So that's where we talk about what happened to them and why are they afraid of returning back to their home countries, what would happen to them. And we support their declaration with supplemental evidence, such as if they were hospitalized because of an attack, we use medical records. If they were arrested for being LGBTQI in their home countries, and sometimes they do get police records, believe it or not, and we use those police records. If the client is living with HIV, then we use their medical documentations to show that as well. We try to get some letters of support from, if they have any supporting family members, then we try to get letters from their families, and sometimes we get hate letters from their families. And we still use them just to show that this person is really going to be in danger. Because look, their family member is even threatening this person just because he's LGBT. We try to get letters, so mainly, usually, from friends that they meet in the United States. And another thing that we need to do in an LGBT asylum case is to prove their sexuality or gender. So a lot of times we use, if they have any social applications like Grindr, Scruff, could be Tinder, Her, we use screenshots of those. If they attended any LGBTQ prides, we get their photos, and we also supplement all of this with country conditions report, where we try to show what's happening to LGBTQ people in that specific country with recent articles, newspaper articles, Amnesty International reports, State Department's reports, a lot of human rights organizations' reports, just to show why it's not safe for our client to go back. So overall, this is what we put in an asylum application.
So, Okan, what can asylum applicants do while they go through this process? Can they work?
Well, this question, I've heard of this question so many times since August 25, unfortunately. And this has been the center of controversy right now. So on August 25th, the current government issued new policies that affect temporary work permit applications for asylum seekers. Now, previously, an asylum seeker could apply for their work permit 150 days after their initial filing if they still have an open case, if they still didn't receive their final decision. Right now, as of August 25th, they can only apply for their work permits 365 days after the initial filing. So the new asylum applicants won't be able to work in the United States for 1 year if they have an asylum application pending at the USCIS. And additionally, the government brought a lot of other restrictions and bans in order to get the temporary work permits during the time of their case. So these rules, also just to let you know, these rules are being challenged right now through litigation, and it is extremely important to have professional legal help, especially these days when the immigration laws are constantly changing on a daily basis. So this is what's happening with their work permits. As soon as their asylum application is approved, though, they're authorized to work anywhere in the United States. However, asylum cases could take a long time right now. Some cases, they take 3, 4, 5 years. And for the first year, they won't get their work permits. And with the new restrictions, if, for example, someone missed their 1-year deadline, they will never get their work permits until they get their asylum approvals. This is unacceptable and inhumane. So we're hoping that this will change after November. So it's extremely important. I just want to make a reminder that to make sure that everyone is registered to vote, and please vote early because this is extremely important.
I totally agree with you on that. Please, everybody, vote, register to vote if you haven't registered yet, and make your voice heard.
Yep.
Okan, you mentioned about HIV plus people. Is it true that simply being HIV plus or HIV positive can make someone a target of persecution in some countries?
Well, yes, absolutely. Many people living in these countries cannot get their proper treatment, and they're ostracized because of their HIV status. So absolutely, there are a lot of countries in the world when they realized if you're HIV positive, then you could be harmed and you could be denied of medical help as well. So we definitely use these incidences in asylum applications. Actually, I can tell you a story of one of our clients. I will call him Oscar, and that's a totally made up name. So Oscar is a gay man from Honduras. He was abused and mistreated his whole life for being gay. He was sexually violated by some of his relatives and constantly bullied at school, which is very common in LGBT cases. And he was bullied at home by his family. His parents kicked him out for being too feminine and too sensitive for a boy. So after a period of homelessness and depression, Oscar attempted suicide. While in the hospital recovering from his attempts, he was informed that he was HIV positive. When his parents found out about his diagnosis, his father beat him and confiscated his HIV medication, claiming that only through religion and prayers, Oscar could get cured of homosexuality, and HIV. And Oscar was able to convince his parents to send him to California for anti-gay conversion therapy. And that's when we met Oscar here in San Francisco. And our office helped Oscar, and he won his asylum case. And so he now lives as an openly gay man. He has a job, and he's taking his HIV medication properly. So this is what's happening in other countries, unfortunately.
Okan, thank you for sharing that personal stories. It's good to have, like at least have personal stories about how these people get affected. And also thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So currently, we currently have a White House that has made opposing immigration one of its main goals. Has this administration changed the asylum process rules?
Yes, very much yes. So the current administration has repeatedly imposed new restrictions on asylum seekers and making it nearly impossible for many people to claim protection in the United States. These restrictions include preventing migrants from applying for asylum if they traveled through another country before reaching to the United States, and if they didn't apply for asylum in that third country. So this is called the third country rule. And recently, the government said that if someone spent 14 days in another country before coming to the United States, they should have applied for asylum there. And if they didn't, they're not eligible to apply for asylum in the United States. This is unheard of. In January 2019, the current administration began implementing the infamous Remain in Mexico policy, which forces asylum seekers who are seeking asylum to return to Mexico for an indefinite amount of time while their claims are processed here in the United States. And this is very dangerous for, as you can imagine, for LGBTQI people. And recently, well, tomorrow, the government, as of October 2nd, actually, the government tried to increase application fees for immigration applications in the United States. And they tried to impose a $50 fee to apply for asylum. So currently it's free, there's no charge. But they wanted to charge vulnerable asylum seekers $50 per application. Luckily, this rule, the implementation of this rule has been stopped for now. There is still, so if you want to apply for asylum right now, it's still free. You can do that. And those changes, the fee increase is not going to happen tomorrow. The court stopped that. So as you can see, this is a constant fight between the immigration advocates and the current government. It's been very tiring to be an immigrant rights activist right now, but we're still hopeful that this will change in 1 month.
Thank you for that information, Okan. So we'll go to the next sets of questions about the organization, which is the LGBT Asylum Project. So Okan, you are one of the co-founders of the LGBT Asylum Project. Can you tell me about your organization and what you do and how you were founded?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said at the beginning, the LGBT Asylum Project is the only San Francisco nonprofit organization that is exclusively dedicated to providing accessible legal representation for LGBTQI asylum seekers who are fleeing persecution because of their sexual orientation, gender identity, or HIV status. And my co-founder, Brooke Westling, who is our legal director right now and managing our legal team, Brooke Westling and I, along with some wonderful, passionate board members, founded the LGBT Asylum Project at the end of 2015 because we realized that there was a critical need for accessible legal representation among the most vulnerable immigrant population. We are right now the first and only immigration agency located in San Francisco's Castro district. which is the first stop for most LGBTQ plus people arriving to our city. So asylum seekers arrive in the United States with very limited resources and knowledge of the American legal system. And as a result, they are unaware that they qualify for protection. Those that apply for asylum without representation, unfortunately, often get denied due to the intricacies of our legal system, because it's complex. And only 13% of unrepresented cases are successful. So it is extremely important to have legal representation if you want to apply for asylum. And LGBTQI immigrants are especially in need of legal assistance, as I mentioned earlier, they have no financial, family, or emotional support. Not only do they have a lack of support, but the communities or their families of these clients try to harm them or sometimes even kill them. So I'm actually extremely proud the fact that the LGBT Asylum Project has a 100% success rate in getting asylum for LGBTQ immigrants.
So in addition to representing clients, do you offer any other services?
Well, right now, we do a lot of advocacy work for LGBTQI immigrants. Before the pandemic, we would offer free monthly LGBT walk-in clinics. Those were community clinics. And we started beginning of 2018, and we hosted 26 free legal clinics where hundreds of LGBTQI immigrants received free consultations, and we taken cases from that clinic. Unfortunately, we had to stop our in-person legal clinics because of the pandemic. So February 2020 was the last time we were able to have our clinic. Right now, we switched everything online. And if you know someone who is in need of legal advice for asylum, and if they are in the Bay Area, they can now go to our website. It's lgbtasylumproject.org, and there is Get Help section on our website. And they can find our intake form, and they can fill that out so that our legal team get back to them and schedule a consultation with them. And we provide all of our services right now 100% pro bono.
So how many clients do you normally serve, and which countries do they normally come from?
Right. Well, we typically try to serve between 150 and 200 LGBTQI people each year. And in 2019 alone, our organization directly served 169 LGBTQI asylum seekers, especially immigrants. I'm sorry. We provided legal consultations. We've taken on cases. We refer them to other nonprofits if the services that they need are not our services. So, and as I said, in 2019, just in 2019, we hosted 12 monthly free clinics as well. We do have clients from all over the world. As I said at the beginning, we have an influx of cases from Brazil, unfortunately. We always get cases from Nigeria, where it could be either a 14 years of imprisonment if you're gay, or a death sentence. So we do get a lot of clients from Nigeria, from Uganda, Middle Eastern countries, and Latin American countries as well.
So Okan, if someone is watching this this live stream, who is in the U.S. with or without legal status, and that person left their country due to persecution because they are LGBTQ, how can they get help?
Well, first of all, they should know that there is always hope for a better future. And second, I would say if you are in the United States, contact an immigration attorney or an immigration service providing nonprofit organization. There are a lot of nonprofits that are on the East Coast, on the West Coast, that could help you. But a lot of times, my recommendation will be just don't try to do your asylum case alone by yourself, or don't listen to your friends. So it is very important to get professional legal help from licensed attorneys so that you have the best chance of getting asylum in the United States.
If someone's watching this are interested in supporting the work of the LGBT Asylum Project, how can they do that?
Well, thank you so much for asking this question. They can, first of all, volunteer with us. We used to do in-person volunteer trainings at our beautiful Castro office, but we had to put a hold onto those. So those are suspended. But you can still come volunteer, and you don't have to have any legal background to be a LGBT Asylum Project volunteer. So you can send us an email at info@lgbtasylumproject.org, and you can just explain your interest areas and what you want to do and how you want to help, and we'll get back to you. You can also make a donation. I see there is the line going on. Thank you so much for that. To donate, go to lgbtasylumproject.org/donate, and any help would be really appreciated, especially right now when LGBTQI asylum seekers need help more than ever. So you can donate, you can volunteer, and once we get back to our normal life, we can do so much more together.
So I'll thank you for sharing this wonderful educational experience and information, Okan.
Asylum could be very complicated, and it's really hard to explain the full system, but I hope it was a little clearer before before you sign on to this event. So I hope it was a little helpful, and I just wanted to explain what LGBTQI asylum seekers go through every day.
Yeah, I just want to tell everyone that you could watch this replay. I know right now we're live, but you could watch it later on our Facebook page and YouTube page, and later on the LGBT Asylum Project will post their video on their Facebook or YouTube page. I want to give the audience chance to ask any questions, so feel free to drop it on the comments page. Let us know if you have any questions for Okan or the LGBT Asylum Project. Looks like we have one question, Okan. It says right here that are there many other organizations doing similar work in supporting the LGBT asylum seekers?
Yes, there are LGBT immigration nonprofits. I can say there is the nation's oldest LGBT immigration nonprofit that's called Immigration Equality. That's based in, I believe, New York and DC. I'm not sure if they have a West Coast office, but in LA, there is a wonderful immigration attorney named Tess, and her office is at the LGBT Community Center in LA. So they do a wonderful job. And there are some other nonprofits in the Bay Area as well to work on LGBTQI asylum cases. So that's why you have all these resources. So please try to not do your asylum case alone. I'm sure you will be able to find some sort of help, especially in the Bay Area, where we have all of these resources, all of these nonprofits available, hopefully available to you. It's just you need to have that connection. And that's why we wanted to be in the Castro, in the heart of, it's the gay Mecca, right? It's where the LGBT people first come mainly to on their first date. And it was extremely important for us to have visibility, to have the LGBT asylum wording in the Castro. So we did that in 2019, March, when we opened our office and put our sign out there. So we would get many walk-ins, and we're very happy to be able to make asylum so accessible for our community.
Let me check the comments page and see if we have any other questions. Looks like there's no any other question. I just want to say thank you, Okan, for sharing this wonderful information and learning experience for me, myself, and for the community.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just see we have one of our wonderful volunteers, Gary Barber, who is here listening. I guess. Hi, Gary. I just want to say hi and thank you so much for volunteering for us. It was so wonderful to have you in our office. Once a week, he would just come and work with either our clients or do some research for us. And I really miss being in. This is why I really miss being in the office. And I also thank you, Gary, for your service for our community. And I also see our Chisimdi Sim. He is one of our board members, and he's been very outspoken, and he makes really good connections. And he was, his support has been great. So thank you so much, Sim, for your service as a board member for the LGBT Asylum Project, year after year. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, volunteers. Thank you, board member. And also thank you, Okan. Looks like that's the end of our show or end of our fireside chat. And I just want to say thank you. For more information about the Asylum Project, you could go to the LGBT asylumproject.org. You could see it on the bottom of the rolling banner. If you want to donate, volunteer, they're a great organization. And thank you again, Okan. That is all, folks.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Sally. This is a really great opportunity. The more we talk about LGBT asylum, maybe even one person listening to this could come and get help. This is why we do this work. I just see another one of our board members, Gülhan Yüzgeç. He has been serving on our board as well. So thank you so much, Gülhan. I believe he has a question.
Yeah, it looks like I'll put it up. You want? I'll read it. You clearly work with clients that have gone through some very traumatic experiences. What is it like as an attorney to work with people that have gone through this trauma?
Absolutely. We briefly talked about this before when when our clients come to our office, it's usually there are tears, and it could be hard on us as the legal service providers, and also it could be hard on our volunteers too. We have boxes of tissues in our office, so that's why we try to do our best to comfort our clients. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to be in the Castro, which is a safe space for LGBTQI people, instead of going to an office in the financial district and talking to a non-LGBTQI or a attorney. Talking to straight attorneys in the intimidating financial district could be a little harsh, especially as for an immigrant. We don't have financial districts in other countries many times. So that's why it was really important for us to create this safe space, which is our office in the heart of the Castro.
Thank you for that question. I think that's all for the question. Again, thank you again, Okan, and the LGBT Asylum Project. And yeah, hopefully we'll see each other soon after the pandemic and do more events together.
Thank you so much. You do an amazing work, and thank you, Silicon Valley Pride team, for having me here. And my contact information can be found at it's info at lgbtasylum.org, lgbtasylumproject.org. So you can shoot us an email if you have any questions, if you want to volunteer, or if you want to donate. That will be it. So thank you, Saldy, so much. This was a pleasure.
Thank you, Okan.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.